Hi, this is Mike with the Cicada Parada, and I wanted to show you some techniques that I've used in the past for mounting the cicadas if you wanted to do it yourself. Um, First, I'll introduce you to our cicada friend over here. When we make these, they're cast out of plaster and they have steel loops embedded deep into them. These should be able to hold the whole weight just on one. You don't need to use all three. Um, Depending on the orientation, if you're just hanging it on the side of the tree, two will do fine. If you're hanging it upside down somewhere, like under a branch, you might want to tie the tail one in so it doesn't sag down. And let me show you some of the techniques we have. Before I start, I'd like to mention that there really is no perfect secure technique to do this, so it really depends on the situation, and someone could come by and cut a steel wire with a pair of pliers. They could cut our webbing option with a pair of scissors, and even with our steel wire cable, they could come by and either cut the lock off the end that we have here, or they could, with the right tool, cut the wire itself. So there's not going to be any perfect security on this, and to reinforce that further, they could just come and cut it off the bug itself. So the first technique for hanging I want to show is if we're hanging it to an inanimate object, so not a tree. This could be a light pole, this could be a ladder. It's important to note that anything you hang it on, you want to hang it high enough up that people can't get to it easily from the ground. Maybe even take into consideration, like if they could pull a trash can up and stand on top of that, it needs to be high enough that someone reaching from standing on a trash can can't grab it. So height is your first line of defense. Beyond that, we'll work in with our steel cable here. I generally like to wrap everything around twice, so I'm going to show you a little demonstration here. I will stick the wire through while I'm on the ground, get it through the holes at least once like that. I like to have it on top of something, a little knot on a tree for the other straps, or on this, in this case we'll use the ladder rung, or it could be just a lip on a light post. Just something that won't just slide down as soon as you put it up. So wrap it around, bring it through another time if you can. So now I've got it through twice, and then I can wrap it around my step here, and I'll just twist it off. You want to try to get the wire to spiral so it's doesn't just want to slide off of itself. And then when you're finished with that, just trim it up with some regular wire cutters. And that alone should be enough to hold it up for the entire duration of the summer and keep it going. Now, I'll show you how easy it is to cut them off. So this is another thing why you want to do it nice and high, because you can cut these off pretty easily. So now we're back to square one. We're going to try to show the second technique now. This is if you want to hang it onto a tree. You don't want to cut into the bark of the tree. You want to even choose your trees wisely. Make sure it's not too delicate of a tree. For these, we can take a piece of webbing. You'll get pretty good at, if you do this a few times, at figuring out the correct length. And you want to fish it through the little holes, just like we did before, while you're still on the ground. And then you'll have it hanging out both sides. And you want to come up to your tree. And we'll also pick like the Y of a tree, or a big enough knot that it won't slip down. And we can wrap our string or our webbing around. This is just regular 1-inch webbing that you can get at craft store or on Amazon, I believe. Just draw your thing around, maybe go around the tree another time just to make sure it's got a good grip. And once you've got a sort of a good hold on it, it's just a matter of tying a knot. I usually just tie a regular knot twice, a square knot I think it's called. It's nothing special, and just make sure it doesn't want to come apart. And that should hold it up. I'll come back with scissors and trim off the excess, leave a little bit just in case it loosens. And that right there is another cicada being hung. And the next step is a bit more redundant. We don't hang from the steel cable, but it does give a little bit more security than just the cable alone. It also is a second line of defense if for some reason the knot came untied. So for these, you also can run it through the holes. We have a crimper and we can make these to length for you at the insect asylum. You can probably also find them around town or have the ability to make them yourself. And then we just use a regular padlock that whoever has the key can control. I'll show on the other line here, just like if you squish it down enough, you can get this to come through the cicada loops. You usually want to get a pretty good length. You'll see here that this one's a little long, but it's what I had laying around. And then when you get it through the loop, you can just lock it up. And then you have at least a little bit of a deterrent for somebody that thinks they can walk away with it. So that's 3 different ways to hang them, one with steel wire, one with webbing, and then one with a steel cable. Hope that answers any questions you have about how to hang these bugs up. But remember, hang them as high as you can. Thanks a lot.